Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. We're your hosts. We started this podcast because 2023 was a goofy year for movies. You had Strays, 80 for Brady, 65, and more. If you like this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, reviewing and rating on wherever you listen to your podcast, and following us on Instagram at Virtual Cocktail. That's the same for the Patreon, too.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about polite society.
Cool.
If you don't know, the synopsis for Polite Society is Ria Khan believes she must save her older sister Lena from her impending marriage. After enlisting her friend's help, she attempts to pull off the most ambitious of all wedding heists in the name of independence and sisterhood. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie?
Looked fun. I don't know if I ever actually watched a trailer. I think I just saw pictures and a poster and a basic synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, cool.
Do you remember when or how you heard about this movie? Because I was trying to think about that.
I don't.
Okay.
I think it was during the point where I knew we were just going to watch it eventually, so I didn't need to fully know what it was.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of the movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what I remember when hearing about this movie. I remember us being somewhere, like at some event, and there was a woman going around handing out little flyers for a showing of the movie. But she didn't say anything about it. Like, she didn't speak at all. She just handed everyone that was there a flyer and then, like, moved on to another room. I cannot remember where we were.
Probably a women in film event.
Probably. But I had already been aware of the movie before that, so I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I recognize this title.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was about a wedding, but I didn't know anything about, like, the genre, or the plot beyond that.
Yep.
So the impression that I had in my head was that it was going to be more serious, and it's not.
Nope.
So, in a good way.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
If you liked the movie Bottoms,
Yeah.
then
This might be for you.
yeah.
Yeah. The trailer for this movie, I know I didn't watch it. It is pretty upbeat. It's got upbeat music. It focuses a lot on the action sequences, and then it has narration from the main character, Ria, that's laying out the plot. That's basically in the synopsis. Because it focuses mostly on the action sequences, it gives away every single significant image that happens in this movie. So even if you don't have the context for the story, I feel like, I know we've talked about this before, I feel like with the Dungeons and Dragons movie, where, like, if you've seen the trailer, then, like, you're not going to be surprised by any of the big images.
Yeah.
So, a little redundant to say if you're listening to an episode about this movie, but don't watch the trailer if you want to be surprised by the movie and you haven't seen it yet.
I guess if you want to be surprised by the movie, don't listen to this episode.
Yeah. So yeah, I know I didn't watch the trailer because it definitely sets up the genre and everything, and then watching it afterwards, or after watching the movie, I was like, oh, that's all of it. Also, the two trivia facts that are on IMDb for this movie, one of them is the trailer spoils the ending of the movie. And then the other one is, during the spa treatment scene, an Australian eastern whitbird can be heard calling in the background.
Well, that's nice.
9 people said this was unhelpful.
Actually, I wish more IMDb trivia was about what birds you hear or see, and not these actors were also both in this movie.
Did you know that this movie is like The Goonies?
It always comes back to the Goonies. You know, this movie, honestly,
Is it like The Goonies?
it's kind of like the Goonies.
If you think about it.
Rich person trying to take over, and it's up to kids
Yeah.
to save the day.
Uh-huh.
And there's an older sibling who is protective of the main character,
True.
but doesn't quite believe in the main character's nonsense.
There's conflict.
There's conflict. So, kind of seems
And the Goonies are famously British.
and Pakistani.
Yep. It's a 1-to-1. Should we talk about the cast?
Yeah, you got this.
I can. I was gonna drink some water, but
Well, I'm gonna drink some water.
okay, then we're both just gonna drink some water.
I think you got this one.
I mean, I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How's your water?
Wet. The cast. The cast of this movie is Priya Kansara is Ria Khan, Ritu Arya as Lena Khan, Serafina Bey as Clara, Ella Brucoleri as Alba, Shona Babayemi as Kovacs, Shobu Kapoor as Fatima, Jeff Mirza as Rafi, Nimra Bucha as Rahila Shah, Akshay Khanna as Salim Shah, and Eunice Huthart as Eunice Huthart. So, Ria is the main character that we follow. Lena is her older sister. Clara and Alba are her two friends from school. Kovacs is the school bully. Fatima and Rafi are the parents of Ria and Lena. Rahila is the mom of Salim, and Eunice is Eunice. You basically just hear her voice in the movie, but they keep showing a poster of her. And that poster is also her IMDb profile picture. So it was just like, I just kept seeing that one picture of Eunice everywhere. We'll get into who she is later on. The plot of this movie. There's a lot going on. So I'm going to do a breakdown. Stop me if you want for anything significant. So Ria is a...
Okay, sorry.
Ria is a British Pakistani teenager living in London with her parents and older sister Lena. Ria dreams of becoming a stunt woman like her idol Eunice Huthart. Lena has recently moved back home after dropping out of art school, and she's clearly struggling to figure out what she wants to do. Ria and Lena's parents are very loving but supportive to a point. Fatima points out that she let Lena go to art school, which is more than her other mom friends would have allowed. They aren't supportive of Ria's stunt woman dreams, neither are her teachers at school, and Ria updates Eunice Huthart about these difficulties through a series of emails. Lena is very supportive of her sister, helping her record videos for her YouTube channel, and Ria's friends Clara and Alba also support her. There's a fight sequence around here with the school bully Kovacs. This kind of the movie in general kind of gets into a weird area of like how much of this is real. It's all pretty real. So there's a big fight scene in the library.
Yeah.
It's dramatic and goofy. Fatima's friend Rahila Shah invites the family to their very fancy Eid soiree at the family's large mansion. They all attend the party, and while there, Ria realizes the point of the party is to introduce Rahila's son Salim to potential matches. Salim and Lena talk briefly and seem to like each other. They begin to go out, and Ria is very upset and suspicious. Lena and Salim date for a few weeks. Ria worries her sister is losing herself because she stops painting and starts wearing cardigans. Lena and Salim get engaged, and the two plan to move to Singapore for Salim's work as a geneticist. Ria gets her friend Clara and Alba to help her spy on Salim, trying to find something wrong with him. There's an elaborate heist at Salim's gym to steal his laptop. They don't find anything. Ria lashes out at her friends. They stop talking to her. There's another fight sequence around here between Ria and Lena. Ria decides if she can't find dirt on Salim, then she'll plant some. She breaks into the Shaw mansion to plant used condoms. She fills them up with lotion.
Yeah.
But she's caught, and everyone is very upset at her. Ria had found a picture of Salim with a different woman, accusing him of having another wife. He reveals his previous wife died during childbirth, and that's what his work focuses on now to prevent that from happening to other women. Ria is grounded. Lena is very angry and tells Ria to stop dreaming in her fantasy world. She'll never become a stunt woman. Isolated from her friends and sister, Ria writes in a new email to Eunice that she's giving up her stunt woman career. Lena has a weird dream about being in a lab and Salim is there. That's probably not significant. Ria goes back to the Shaw mansion to apologize to Rahila for breaking into her house. Rahila invites her in for a spa day. While making Ria get her legs waxed, Rahila says she won't allow anyone to get in the way of her son's wedding, basically threatening Ria. Rhea runs away. There's a fight sequence with the wax technicians, and Rhea finds a secret lab downstairs in the mansion. She doesn't fully know what the testing is looking for there, but it's clear that Salim has genetic info on all of the women from the Eid party, including Rhea, and Lena had the best results. Rhea tries to tell her mom when she gets home, but Fatima doesn't believe her. Rhea tells Clara and Alba about what she found, and her friends are back together again. They decide they have to kidnap Lena from her own wedding and begin forming a plan. They realize they need a getaway car, and the only person they know with one they could borrow is Kovacs, who agrees to help them. Rhea dances at the wedding, causing a distraction, while Clara and Alba pose as waiters and get into Lena's room to chloroform her, hide her, and begin to make their way to the car. Rahila realizes something is wrong and fights Rhea. During the fight, Rahila reveals Salim's testing is looking for the ideal candidate to host a clone of his mom, giving her a second chance at a life without any expectations of marriage. Rahila wins the fight, telling Rhea's friends if they want to see her alive again, they'll bring back Lena. They do, and all three of them are locked up together. Kovacs rescues the group by knocking out an armed guard. Rhea takes the gun, and they make their way to the wedding. Rhea stops the ceremony at gunpoint, revealing what she's found in the lab. Rahila and Salim laugh and try to say Rhea's lying, but Lena is convinced by her sister and realizes she wasn't dreaming about being in a lab. Fatima hits Rahila with a chair, telling her daughters to get away, and a massive chase/fight sequence begins. Rhea and Lena almost get away, but are stopped at the car by Rahila and Salim. Rahila chokes Rhea and thinks she's killed her, but then Rhea stands back up, landing a powerful kick on Rahila. Lena kicks Salim to the ground and the two sisters drive away. They stop for food at a diner, then Lena helps Rhea record another video for her channel. While recording, Rhea finally gets a response from Eunice Huthart inviting Rhea to her studio the next week. Mm-hmm. The end.
Watching it made me feel like it was the best video game logic movie since Scott Pilgrim.
Mm-hmm.
Because so much of it really is just like they do like overstitial title cards of Khan versus Kovacs. Yeah, and so like it was just very much like, oh, leaning into the video game.
Yeah.
And they did a good job at that.
Mm-hmm.
It was action fight movie put in the lens of a teenage girl.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was... I think since like Bottoms also came out in 2023,
yeah.
like Bottoms was perfect and like it leaned into it.
It's another teen girl fight movie.
Yeah.
I would say the type of action is very different in both of them. Where like Bottoms is already pretty... Bottoms is pretty out there, but like the action is pretty grounded, where like if someone punches and they're gonna have a bloody nose or whatever, this doesn't always happen in this movie. Like the fight that Rhea has with Kovacs in the library, neither one of them comes away bloody, but then when she fights her sister, then there's like glass sticking out of her forehead.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of action in that way. Bottoms is like it. I don't know if hyperrealism is the right term. It's campy, where like it's not quite real life. It's not fair to say that either of these is like grounded.
I think Polite Society there were times where it didn't quite lean into it enough, and I felt like it sort of had trouble finding its footing because of that.
It's hard to convey the tone of the movie when you're doing a recap of like, here are the basic facts that happen.
Yeah.
It combines so many genres that it's hard to pinpoint like the exact tone, or like where there's no one category for it, which is a good thing.
Yeah. But
yeah, I also know what you mean, because like even when we were watching it, then we were getting towards the end of the movie, but like things just kept escalating that you said like, I hope this isn't a dream.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't tell like how
there were parts that were just so outrageous, but then everyone else was just like so. It honestly, like, if it weren't for like the brutalness of it, and like the really good cinematography and just like writing and like everything else that went into it, and this is not going to sound good, but I think this is kind of a close comparison,
Mm-hmm.
has a similar vibe to a Disney Channel original movie that is about like, or maybe not even original, but like Agent Cody Banks.
Yeah.
If you remember those movies,
Mm-hmm.
where it's this kid who is a spy, and
Yeah.
like it like follows like that similar like spy or martial arts movie, but it's with a kid instead of an adult, and so it has like that weird hokiness to it.
Mm-hmm.
But this one manages to take the hokiness out.
It does. I think like it was very surprising to watch, and that's why I'm glad that I didn't watch the trailer before
Yeah.
seeing this, because when it first starts out, then like cool Rhea, you see Rhea like in a karate class, and then it's like kind of going through her day and like establishing what her regular routine is and what her life is like, and then Lena like is eating chicken on the street like she's having a rough time.
Yeah.
And then like you see her relationship with Salim, and it seems like he is like a good guy, and maybe just like it really frames in the first like third or even the first half, it really frames it as like all of this is true, like it is all like the relationship is fine. It's just Rhea who has an issue with this because her sister is the only one that supports her, and like her sister has her own dreams, and like if she's obviously upset that like if her sister is like conforming to the expectations, then like she doesn't stand a chance at wanting to do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And then it has the heist in the gym of like trying to get his laptop, where that's like a very goofy, I don't know what age exactly Rhea is supposed to be, like maybe 16-ish, but like a teen's version of a heist where like she wears a fake mustache and a wig to get into the men's locker room, and it's like it's all very teen movie-ish. But then it once you find out the conspiracy is true, then it like escalates more and more, and that's when it was like, I hope this is all still real and all still happening.
Yeah.
Because it is just like that's where the tone like it's not hokey, but it gets
Yeah.
different.
And like when it revealed the much more serious of the cloning,
Mm-hmm.
and like that first reveal of the sister
Lena?
Lena, when like she wakes up, or like when it shows like a flash, and then she wakes up,
Yeah.
and then that's like a, oh no,
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna be just a dream.
Yeah.
That's like a real thing that's happening to her. That to me was like, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm excited,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me think of They Clone Tyrone,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the thing where like it just kind of missed out the most is that it didn't escalate enough. Like it wasn't, I don't know, like it was bad.
The conspiracy didn't escalate enough?
Yeah, and like obviously they were doing tests on her
Yeah.
to clone the mom.
Mm-hmm.
That is bad. But it didn't seem like, I don't know, for how much conspiracy that was in Rhea's head. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't quite.
It wasn't big enough?
Yeah.
Mm.
It felt like there was tons of build up, and it is still this big thing. I'm not saying it's not this big thing, but it
Yeah.
was still just, I don't know. It didn't have like the full punch that I felt like They Cloned Tyrone did.
Yeah.
And I want to just rewatch They Cloned Tyrone.
Yeah, we should. It's a good one. Yeah, I think like the conspiracy focus between those two is very different. Where like They Clone Tyrone is about like a conspiracy on a social level,
Yeah.
and like massive national, like how people of color are treated in America. This is like a personal conspiracy using like a personal lens to show or like to talk about like social expectations of Pakistani women.
Yeah.
So like it I get what you mean of it like not being on the same or like not being as big as that.
It doesn't even
I
have to be
kind
as
of
big. I just think the hit wasn't as
yeah.
strong.
I do think like I don't know. I like that everything wasn't spelled out. Like
No,
I
no,
don't always
yeah.
need that everything needs to be spelled out, but like the Rahila's motivations for like wanting to start over or like wanting a new clone, it's all like it's all explained, but it's kind of implied of like she never specifically says like what she would want to do if she didn't have to get married and have her son. She just says like as soon as my education was finished, then they married me off immediately, and then the only good thing that happened to me was my son. And he's a total mama's boy. They have a very codependent relationship. It's gross. So like he keeps saying like my mom gave up a lot for me, so I want to make her happy however I can. And that's kind of it as far as their motivations go.
Yeah.
Yeah, if she had some other thing of like cuz like Lena's an artist and like she worries about being good enough, and that's why she is kind of okay with being in this relationship and like having something stable, and Ria wants to be a stunt woman. If they had explained like what does she want to do, or like we could learn who she is a bit more, then I think that would probably help sell the hit a bit. Yeah, but they do say like Salim has been looking for a partner for a while, and then Rahila is like, you would think that like someone would be okay with carrying on a clone of his mom, but that's kind of hard to find for whatever reason. And that's why they've resorted to like doing everything in secret and whatever. It's definitely played off more as a joke and like not in it's the logic isn't super sound with it.
And I feel like that's kind of what I mean by like a Disney Channel original movie, or like a
things happen.
Like things happen and
Yeah.
there's not enough explanation.
If you think about it too hard, things will fall apart. But like this is enjoyable enough that I'm like, yeah. Sure. I think the soundtrack is good and the sound effects are good. There's a lot of
good
like
sound design for sure.
Those like hawk screeching noises when things are tense, especially with Lena.
Yeah.
Like as Ria and Lena, the wedge between them gets bigger, then like Lena is about to fight, and then like the hawk screech happens, and you can tell like she's angry, and
and it does a lot of like the boom sound effects, like with motion, like an eyebrow goes up and it's like boom, a different thing.
There wasn't like a specific song or anything that stuck out to me, but it was just all of the choices were good and they helped fit the tone of everything. Like we mentioned, there's a lot of genres in this. There's also a full dance sequence.
It's really good too.
Yeah, it's very good. The actress that played Ria describes herself as like an amateur dancer, but she said like that was one of her favorite things to do, and it was just like a full day of the shoot was just working on the dance. So she was like, it was exhausting doing it a billion times, but otherwise that was a great time. Got to live out like a childhood fantasy of being in a Bollywood movie. The dance sequence was good. The fights are pretty good.
Yeah, and the fights are like very over the top, like martial arts. Like it's like people are clearly rigged up.
Yeah.
And like hanging off of stuff.
There's a lot of like doing the kick that it's like you jump, your kick is in the air and you're getting ready, like you arc over the entire room to get over to
physics. Yeah. A lot of like bouncing off of walls in ways that don't actually work.
Yeah. It's also like coming of age kind of, and then comedy and a heist movie, and it's got a little bit of everything going on. Fight choreography and the stunts are good. The sibling dynamic I think is good. It's got a good mix of like you can obviously tell why, or like what they have in common, and like they are supportive of each other. And then when they fight, then they're like, this is devastating. And it's a good depiction of like when siblings fight, then it's a particular kind of dynamic. And then they make up later. Like they make up as Lena is getting ready for the wedding before she's chloroformed, and she says like, I hate when we fight, it sucks so much. And they're just like,
Their fight is a physical fight.
yeah,
The closest comparison that I can think of is in Hot Rod when Andy Samberg fights the dad, or
yeah,
like his stepdad, and they're breaking through walls and just making destruction in their path. Like
Yeah.
that happens in this. And
there's a little bit of dialogue that goes along with it, but it is mostly like getting out all of the tension that is built up between them at that point, because Lena is upset that Rhea isn't supportive of her relationship, and then
Yeah.
Rhea is just like, Rhea calls her a Stepford wife during the fight, and she's like, why are you wearing cardigans? Where is your art? Like,
yeah,
I just like that she focuses on the cardigans so much, because they're just regular cardigans. Like, they're not like
yeah, but
old
they're
lady clothes or whatever.
very colorful.
Yeah,
Starts wearing colors and white, and before she was just wearing black and
and hoodies, and yeah.
had bangs and like messy bangs
Yeah.
and hair and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, and then during that fight, Lena also says like, or Rhea says, why are you okay with not doing art anymore or something? And Lena says, because I'm not good enough. And that's
Yeah.
like, she's like, are you happy I said it? Like that's that's why she dropped out of art school, is too much pressure.
they don't fully say that like she goes back to art either. At the end, she's just like, I need to culminate.
I need to think about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I get, but also I feel like her character didn't really have growth. And I know it's not really about her character, but if a big part of your movie is the sibling dynamic, I feel like both siblings should grow. The only thing that she really went through was she gave up on art, she got engaged, her fiance was conducting tests on her in secret, and
Oops.
she ran.
Yeah. Now she's back she's stagnant again, but in a different way.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt like when we were talking about Quiz Lady, of like the older sister should also have some sort of
Yeah.
something going on. But like when Lena and Salim first start hanging out together, and when like I thought like, oh, maybe he is like an actual good guy and it's just Rhea who's projecting, one of the things that he says on their date is he's like, so what do you do? And then Lena is like, I was in art school, I'm not anymore, so now I disappoint my parents. Like that's she's pretty honest about where she's at, and he's just like, I think there's a lot of pressure for everyone to have a thing and like
Yeah.
do something. So he's just like accepting of wherever she's at. Obviously you learn later that it's fake.
Yep.
But that's like why I thought that maybe he was.
He just
Cool.
needed that strong uterus.
Don't we all?
He said it was like 2 times stronger than other uteri.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, the
Can stop bullets.
that whole thing is icky, obviously, because you're trying to make a clone of your mom. But like the other thing that was icky is because I can't tell. I don't know enough about the British schooling system to know what age Rhea is supposed to be. And he's got info on Rhea in there, and she's like an 88% match or something. And it's just like, what would this movie have looked like if Rhea was the 100% match or whatever? And then would you have waited like 3 years? Nasty.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, the cast of this movie I thought was very good.
Yeah, everyone did a good job.
Yeah. A lot of these people, or a couple of them, are also in Bridgerton. I think those are like some of their bigger credits.
The best friends
The best friends were very good.
stole the show.
Yeah, Clara and Alba. Ella, that plays Alba, I think she's also in Bridgerton. Her facial expressions, especially,
Yeah.
are very good. Clara has some good lines like the three of them have a secret handshake, and then it's kind of a dorky handshake, and then they keep getting interrupted.
Yeah, we never got to see it finished, did we?
No, we did.
We did? Okay.
Yeah, that was the end of it. But like the end of their handshake, then someone always comes in and like calls them virgins,
Yeah.
and Clara is just like immediately yelling and insulting them, and she's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ella's facial expressions of like they're pushing the cart through the hallway.
Trying to be inconspicuous.
Yeah, that has like they're about to go chloroform someone, and her eyes are huge, and she's got like the tiniest, tightest smile, trying to look like a regular person, and it's very good.
I also enjoy a movie that recruits the bully,
Yeah.
and then they all become buds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Rhea, whenever she fights Kovacs, or like whenever Kovacs comes up, then Rhea always brings up Kovacs' dad, because he's in prison for insider trading, and he tries to buy her affection with like she's got like a Thunderbird or something.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
car that they use.
A classic Thunderbird.
Yeah. So then Kovacs is like, stop talking about my dad, and then like she gets upset about it, but then at the end, then Kovacs hands Rhea the keys, and she's like, but your dad, and she's like, he sucks, it's okay. They become buds. I liked Fatima to her Shoba Kapoor. I thought she was very good.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a huge role, but she's like when she's there, she's good at showing like she is at a lower like social status than the other people in her mom friend group, and she's trying really hard to fit in. Yeah, the dad is not.
He's there.
He's around. Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Rahila is a good villain. The kind of iffy points that we had, you mentioned the editing when we watched it.
There was like one, I can't even remember what it was, but it was during Rhea and Rahila's fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Post chloroforming sister.
Yeah.
There was a weird edit where Rhea got knocked down and it showed her still down, and then the very next
Oh, it was like a weird continuity thing?
frame she was okay, Rhea was on the ground, Rahila was like walking around her.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cut to a different angle. Rahila was like in the corner or like looking out a window, and then Rhea was running at her.
Oh.
And it was a little of weird of like,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a weird jump. What got cut?
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I think my main like iffy point when watching the movie, especially when I thought that it was a teen heist kind of tone, was they set up like you can either like there are traditional expectations that like the parents are supportive of, or like they love their daughters, but they would really prefer if they stuck with the traditional expectations, and they're kind of struggling with that. So like it sets up that like you can only be married or you can follow your dreams, and that's about it. And they never specifically say like why, besides like of course that's the dynamic, and like that I understand that, but I don't know, stunt women are married, artists are married. They never say like Lena can be married and then also paint.
No.
You know? It doesn't take up a whole lot of your time, but
You're either married to your craft or married to your man. And that goes for everyone.
yeah. So like that dynamic being set up, I was like, yeah, of course, but then like never, I don't know, they just never talk about it. It's just kind of a given.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I was a little frustrated in like if you just talk to each other, then like most of the conflict in this movie wouldn't have to happen. But then everything else started happening, so I didn't care about that as much. Anything else before production facts?
I think we're good to go on to production facts.
So this movie premiered January 21st, 2023 at Sundance, and it had a simultaneous US and UK release on April 28th, 2023. This was produced by Working Title and Parkville Pictures, and then it was distributed by Focus Features. It already had a distribution deal before going to Sundance. So good for them.
Yeah.
It had an hour and 43-minute runtime. It's rated PG-13. It's got a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes with an 84% audience score, 75 out of 100 on Metacritic, and a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. The Rotten Tomato critic consensus says Polite Society throws, kicks, and punches the genre etiquette book out the window to deliver a fun film that blends Bollywood splendor and British wryness. It was listed as one of the Guardian's best films of 2023. And then from a 3.5-star Roger Ebert review, it says, it's an action comedy in the style of Edgar Wright, mixed with the cross-cultural commentary of Bend It Like Beckham, the sibling dynamic of Little Woman, and the defiance of a Jane Austen heroine carving a path for herself. But most importantly, it's a damn good time at the movies. So that's, it's got everything.
Yeah.
The budget of this movie is unclear.
Yeah.
I couldn't even find, a ballpark. I saw a single Reddit comment saying that, wow, they for sure stretched their budget as far as it could go, and it still sometimes looks cheap, which I don't agree with. There's a whole wedding,
Nothing looked cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, it was stylized, but nothing where I was like, oh, that looks... I mean, yeah, it's not Marvel-level fight sequences.
Yeah.
But, it was supposed to kind of look not real.
There are times when we watch a movie that I know has, a $20 million budget or something, where that's a lot of money to us, especially if we would make something like that. But there are times when I watch a movie like that and I'm like, yeah, we could do that, where I know that we have the connections to do X, Y, and Z or whatever. Watching this, I was like, no, we're not there yet. So I don't know how much it costs. For the box office and streaming numbers, though, it earned just over $2.6 million, and then it also reached number 10 on the top 10 streaming movies. It was on there for one day, according to Just Watch, and then after that, it was top 100 for the next month or something. It's a pretty even split between international and domestic earnings for the box office, I think because of that simultaneous US and UK release. The writer and director, Nita Manzoor, was a little bit disappointed with the box office. She said to LA Times, "Part of me was hoping that it would do massive numbers at the box office, but that was me dreaming in a way. Because the truth is, films now, it's not all about theatrical. It kind of lives on, and this is what I'm having to kind of accept. When the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 came out, it kind of disappeared, which was slightly heartbreaking, but it did make me realize I was sort of dreaming that this could be like Top Gun Maverick and make theaters come back. I had this slightly naive sense that it would be big in the way I was hoping." So she's realistic. She goes on in that interview and says just talking about more about how the nature of streaming movies has changed things, and that because she grew up with the big blockbuster releases, then that's always what she's going to look for and hope for if she does another feature film.
Mm-hmm.
So she's aware of how well she did.
Yeah.
The production timeline is pretty straightforward. In January 2022, it was announced that Nita Manzoor was working on a feminist martial arts / action comedy film, and then February 2022, it was announced that filming on the project had wrapped in London. So I don't know how long the filming lasted.
Yeah.
But it was announced and then it was done. But Nita Manzoor had been developing the film concept for about 10 years, trying to find partners to get it made. So she had been working on it for a while.
It's just, who really wants to make a feminist movie?
It's got a few awards and a lot of nominations. It's got 5 nominations from the British Independent Film Awards. It won for Best Debut Screenwriter for Nita Manzoor. It won the Best International Feature at the Florida Film Festival. Director to Watch Award from the Palm Springs International Film Festival. It went to the big ones like Sundance, and then a bunch of Florida festivals for whatever reason. It has won 9 nominations for the best stunts / best stunt coordinator across various film festivals and various like Critics' Choice circles. And then it got a 2024 commendation from Girls on Film Awards for Female Friendship Award.
Okay.
Yep. The tagline is Big Trouble, Little Sister.
That's very good.
It is. So this was written and directed by Nita Manzoor, like we mentioned. She is the creator of We Are Lady Parts. The series has won a BAFTA, Peabody, and Rose d'Or award. So it's a good one. People like it. It's about a Pakistani girl punk group. British.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now I know what that one is.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you had watched it.
I haven't watched that one, no. It was one that was like on my list.
Yeah. This is her first feature film. She has plans for other features in the future, but she's mostly taking her time between projects, and she's been working on season 2 of Lady Parts. It seems like she got a lot of buzz from Sundance, because this is like a pretty universally critically acclaimed thing. So like she's gotten a lot of offers, and like people want to know what she's doing, and like agents contacting her and that kind of stuff. And she's just taking things not cautiously, but like she wants to make sure that she's working on stuff that she cares about. And it seems like she's working with people who are pretty supportive of that. And it's not like her agents are like, you need to do something now or else your career is going to die.
Yeah.
So she's, she picks and chooses, and I think that's fair. There are a lot of genres in this movie together, which means there are a lot of reference films that were used. References include, or like, points of reference, not like specific lines or whatever. But influences include Mean Girls, Kill Bill, Devdas, Old Boy, All About Eve, various spaghetti westerns, Hong Kong kung fu films, Get Out, The Slums of Beverly Hills, and the novels of Jane Austen. I saw other reviews comparing it to Scott Pilgrim, but I don't think she specifically says that Scott Pilgrim was a reference. But
no, it's definitely not. Like, it doesn't feel like it's Scott Pilgrim. It just feels like another movie that uses video game logic, not a video game movie. Yeah,
there was a review that I saw that said, like, it feels like it takes place in the same universe as Scott Pilgrim does.
I could see that.
Yeah. So Priya Kansara, who played Rhea, she wanted to do as many of her own stunts as possible because of who her character was. She was cast about 6 weeks before filming began and started learning martial arts immediately. She had never done it before.
Impressive.
And she said that the only time she injured herself was by walking into something on set. They tried to characterize each person with their fighting styles as well. So Priya said to Cosmo UK that Rahila's character, for example, fights the old school way, so used more kung fu moves that are a nod to people like Bruce Lee. For the sisters, it was messier, and there was more floor work, harder punches, and things like that, because we wanted it to feel really raw and real. Anyone that has a sibling knows that it gets ugly. Later in that same interview, she says, in general, there's very little light shown onto stunt teams and how much work goes into this. They deserve their own category at the Oscars. It's more than just punching and kicking each other. These fights tell a story and reflect a character. For example, Rhea often mirrors her opponent, but then she begins to find her own style later in the fight. That was really fun to explore, and I learned so much about the art and technicalities. That was stuff that I didn't notice during the movie.
No, I didn't.
But I like the intention that goes into that. Yeah. And then the stunt coordinator, Crispin Layfield, and then the fight choreographer, Rob Locke, they worked closely with the costume designer, P.C. Williams, on the wedding scene specifically to make the outfits work on camera and with fights. So P.C. Williams made skirts bigger and added extra layers as much as possible so that when those high kicks then happen, then the fabric goes out and it looks good on camera. And
that's cool.
Yeah. And then my other fact is just to talk about Eunice Huthart more, because I didn't know who she was. So just some highlights of her career. In 1994, she was the champion of gladiators, and then 1995, she was the champion of champions for gladiators. She started appearing on the show with the nickname Blaze, and then she briefly coached gladiators
Okay, well
competitors.
now I know.
Now you know?
Now I know.
Okay. Yeah, so then she started coaching gladiators, and then in 1995, she got her first big break in the stunt world with the film Goldeneye. And then she now regularly stunt doubles for Angelina Jolie and is the godmother to Jolie's oldest child, Shiloh. So they're pretty close. And then she's been the stunt coordinator for many films and franchises, including Harry Potter, Eternals, Star Wars, Justice League, Venom, I think it's the second Venom, and then Fast and Furious. And she also was the stunt coordinator for 2023's The Flash. That we will have to watch, or I will have to watch. You've already seen it. Yeah. Yeah. Thought she was cool. I also thought it was funny that, like, when we hear her voice, then, like, early on in the movie, then Rhea is like, don't worry about not responding. I'm sure you're working on a Marvel or a Star Wars or whatever. And then when she responds, and she's like, sorry about that. I was working on a Marvel. And she has.
Yep.
I think that's all I got if we want to get to our rating.
Let's rate it. Mm-hmm. We rate out of 4 with 5 options. 0 to 4 is, oh no. 1 out of 4 is it was a movie. 2 is well made or enjoyable. 3 is enjoyable and technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. I gave this a 3 just because of the other things that I complained about, or not complained, but just my grievances, my critiques. And then also, like, Bottoms is a 4.
Yeah.
This wasn't quite as good as Bottoms. It's a high 3, but it's not quite at the 4 level.
I gave it a 4. I think it is a low 4. I feel like, again, if we did halves, I would give this movie a 3.5.
Yeah, but it averages out now.
It averages out to 3.5, so that's kind of why I gave it a 4. It's not a perfect 4, but it's really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And for other movies that we have seen that we keep comparing it to, like Bottoms and They Clone Tyrone, then those for me were both 4s. So this makes sense to put it on that same level. So if you haven't seen it and you've listened to this whole podcast, then oops, spoilers, but I would still recommend watching it because just the visuals are not something that you can really show on a podcast.
We'd like to talk about other stuff that we've been watching. We haven't really watched a movie together.
That's true.
I watched Super 8. That was good. I like that movie.
Have you seen it before?
Nope.
Oh, okay. I saw it in theaters when it came out, and I have not seen it again since then. I remember liking it.
It's good. Yeah. Have you watched anything?
We've been watching West Wing, so that's the main thing.
It's pretty much West Wing.
Yeah. I've been playing Stardew Valley. Does that count?
No. Follow us on Instagram at Virtual Cocktail. Support us on Patreon at Virtual Cocktail. It's $5 a month. If you leave questions and comments, we'll respond to them on our other podcast, Virtual House Sessions. But for now, we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.